You've probably never heard of this game before, or if you have, props to you. This is a new indie multiplayer shooter by the name of The Finals. The developers have ran 2 closed betas, with the recent one just running this past week. I ended up missing the first week, and honestly, prior to that week, I never heard of this game before, which kind of sucks, to be honest with you, because this game has one of the most interesting premises I have ever heard of, which in turn makes its presentation incredibly unique. The game is presented as a game show. You have 3 teams of 3, so it's basically a 3v3v3, with each team battling for a vault that they then need to extract. First team to extract 30k, or essentially extract 3 times, wins. The vault and the extraction can also be stolen by any team at any moment, and extracting can take a bit of time, with it requiring at least one player from the team standing next to it to make sure it's being extracted, which I really like because it restricts players from initiating an extraction and then all 3 of them hiding and taking up positions where they can turn the extraction into a killing field, basically having that extraction on lockdown without any type of repercussions on them. But that is the basic bare bones rundown. There's obviously a bit more to it, with arenas or maps that you play in never being the exact same, or the game providing some type of variety with the maps, giving the weather conditions changing from clear, nighttime, daytime, foggy, raining. Sometimes there's some construction blocking a path or changing the map's flow in one way or another. Sometimes your extraction or vault are on elevated platforms. Other times they're in basements, so you can never exactly determine beforehand where your extraction or where the vault's gonna be. Speaking of map flow, that brings me to the other major thing. Environments in this game are totally destructible. It takes some time doing, but you can make holes in floors, ceilings, and you can even make entire floors collapse. I'm sure you've seen in the gameplay by now that there's also some gadgets at your disposal, with you being allowed to deploy jump pads, goo grenades, which give you cover for yourself, or you can block off a particular path. There's sonar grenades to detect enemies. You can equip zip lines, defibrillators, gas mines. The list kind of goes on and on. There's even more than that. There's also 3 operatives you can choose from, with them being light, medium, or heavy. Depending on which you choose will give you different abilities. I'm gonna be honest, I really didn't experiment with them as much as I wanted to, because depending on which operative, they're going to change up which gadgets you can use. What I do know is with the light class, you can equip an SMG, be a little bit more nimble on your feet. You can work towards a special ability where you go invisible for a short period of time. And then you have the heavy, where you get LMGs, your health is I think 100 points higher. And then you get an RPG and you're more about explosives and obviously being a defensive position. I played more the medium role, where it's all support. You have defibrillators, and what I love the most about this one, and this is why I wasn't really experimenting with anyone else, is the jump pads. You can drop a jump pad and basically catapult yourself onto any type of rooftop or any type of high ground to get any kind of defensive or offensive position. You don't have to be funneled down these hallways or follow your teammate on a particular zip line. You can basically find your own way. Or if you're being very creative, you can basically drop it down, and if your timing is just right, you can hit the jump pad, launch yourself up the air, and then on your way down, get a better angle on someone, provided that your aim is good enough. So Brag's all about player creativity, player freedom to tackling these types of situations, and as far as all of that goes, I think this game does it phenomenally well. Where I feel a little weird about it is obviously it's not that much of a casual shooter. It's 3v3v3, and as I said before, teamwork is basically pretty imperative in order for you to be able to win your match. This game also gives you infinite ammo. You only have one weapon. I mean, you do have a reserve that you can swap over to, but besides that, whatever gun you go into the match with, you're basically stuck with for the entirety of that match. You have infinite ammo. You have to reload your gun, of course, but you don't have to worry about running out of any type of ammunition. All of your gadgets, the goo grenades, the jump pads, the zip lines, incendiary grenades, frag grenades, gas mines, operative abilities, so have you. All of that stuff are all on cooldown, so you're not burning through any type of resources. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can of course find yourself in a very bad position if you decide to use your gadget or ability at the wrong time, which does mean that there's going to be a tactical application to it. But given how competitive the shooter itself is, and then how lighthearted the narrators are, at times it feels kind of like they contradict each other and they don't really complement each other. Sometimes it benefits it without a doubt, because you have these narrators that are a little bit more lighthearted, describing essentially what's going on in the match, which can elevate the mood and not feel so tense. But there's definitely a learning curve with the fact that you're stuck with one particular weapon, you don't run out of any type of ammunition. The emphasis is really all about innovation, strategy, communication and how the three of you are going to coordinate on stealing an extraction or eliminating one or sometimes even both teams. The gunplay itself is incredibly satisfying. The graphics look great. At times, I honestly really wish this was more of a casual shooter and not so much of a competitive one. Basically, that's just because of my own preference of wanting something a little bit more on the casual side. But hey, if you're looking for a little bit of a competitive shooter to play with friends, I mean, the game's going to be free. It's supposed to come out sometime later in this year. I say give it a shot. The only adjustments that I would make is whenever someone quits on a team, you're basically screwed. That slot will not be filled for the remainder of the match. There's a couple matches where both teammates quit on my team or one teammate quit on my team, or I played a match where one guy from both of the other teams quit, and you're basically stuck the entire match without having those slots filled. It would be nice to be able to have that slot filled later on, so that way you get a little bit more competition in there. I know that contradicts what I just said, but if that's what your game is basically going for, you should make it where the slot can be filled and it not be an issue. Because obviously if you're playing, both teammates quit and you're stuck against 6 other players, 2 other teams, you're basically fucked. You have no chance there, especially if you're going to initiate an extraction, which like I said before is going to take a decent amount of time, and you need at least one player on the team to stand next to it. Yeah, you're basically screwed. I would also say for the store, it's kind of confusing in the beginning of how to edit your loadout, how the operatives and the progression towards everything works. Basically, if you want to unlock anything, you have to initiate the progression for it, and then once you initiate the progression for it, you have to earn about 8,000 XP in order to unlock that particular item, which I do like, but it's a little confusing in the beginning. You have to basically mess around in the menus, which is already kind of confusing, because in order to even reach the loadout, you have to go to your contestants, and then you have to pick a particular operative, and then you can then cycle through the weapons. So it's just multiple screens. It would have been nice on the main screen to just have your loadout right then and there, and then from your loadout, switch out your contestants, and then mess a little bit more with your weapons. They need to optimize the menu system ultimately a little bit better, because as of right now, it's a little confusing. It's kind of hard to navigate. You really just got to take a minute or two to mess around with it to realize how to get around it yourself. So hopefully come a full release, or once it releases into early access, if that's the plan, the menu system is adjusted a little bit. I think the gameplay would also serve a nice little free-for-all type game mode where it's a little bit more hectic, a little bit more fast-paced. You have 9 people. I would say slash the extraction time and maybe do the same for respawns. You know, the timer, whenever you die, you have to wait about a 15-second timer unless someone comes and revives you. But it would be cool to see a little bit of a free-for-all, a little bit more of a competitive edge where you have 9 people basically competing against each other. I think that type of game mode would really thrive with what this game is trying to achieve here. But let me know what you think. Have you guys been keeping an eye on the finals? Have you heard anything about it? Or is this the first time you've heard anything about this game? Like I said, it's been kind of under the radar for the most part. I only recently heard about it, and the premise itself is interesting, and I like to promote as many indie games as I possibly can. But let me know what you think. Like always, guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for a good shooter, maybe keep an eye on the finals. But until next time, I'll see you on the next video.